Man, check out the curves on that. Oof, ah. Oh, hey, how's it going? Let's ignore that. And so I did a thing. I made an Outfeed table. The video is going to show you how I did that. Also, pay no mind, I may look a little different. I may or may not have filmed 99% of this a few months ago. So I may look a little different. The background may look a little different. But I got it done. So enjoy. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything, throw them down in the comment section. As always, welcome, and let's jump into it. Okay, jumping right into this. My first tip is if you're making a lot of repeatable cuts, then make sure you have some sort of stop block or positive stop. It just makes your life so much easier. That way you don't have to measure every single time, and all your cuts are going to be the exact same. Whether you're spot on with the measurement or you're off by an eighth or a quarter, everything's going to be the same. That way, you don't have to worry about measuring every time. Also, my second tip is just square up the ends of some of this lumber that you buy at the big box stores. I do it pretty much on every new board. You'll see me do that there. It just makes sure that everything is nice and square, and you're not going to end up with a wobbly table or whatever you're making. Now, I just wish I had placed the camera in a better spot so you can actually see what I'm doing. These last cuts were actually smaller than my stop block would allow, so I had to literally measure every single time. What I could have done to make it a lot easier is measure one and then essentially just take that first one and trace it for every single cut. That way I knew that every single piece was going to be the same length. That way, because if you're making multiple cuts, having to measure every single time, you're gonna have the compounding error that could happen, and everything's not going to line up. And what I like to do with the lumber I buy from the big box stores, I'll take off all those rounded edges on the table saw. And what I'll do is pretty simple, is I'll put the board between the blade and the fence and then move it, and then move the fence in like an eighth of an inch just to take those rounded edges off. And you can see me checking with the small square, make sure it's 90 degrees. And then I'll just run through pretty much every piece that I pre-cut. It just gives it a more finished look. Not that I say those rounded edges don't look more finished, but the nice crisp edges just looks, in my opinion, a lot better. You can see that I'm doing that with the 2x4, the 2x6. Just taking those edges off. I'll move it in a little bit if I don't like it. And like I said, every rounded edge comes right off. Now that I have those all cut, it's time to assemble the legs. Now, while editing this, thought, apply a screw and I was going to use my finger, but I forgot that I actually used the fancy brush that I bought. Now, I have the 2x4 on one side and the 2x6 on the other, just so that when they're put together, they're both symmetrical on each side. It's not one side's bigger than the other. Also makes it a lot easier to screw to. But like I said, this is just all rinse and repeat. Little wood screw, throw it into clamps, And in no time, you'll have all 4 sides done. Enjoy. All right, day 2. Everything's all glued up. Now we can take it out of clamps and start assembling. All right, it's pretty simple. I got my legs, my side stretchers. It's time to glue and screw. I'm using 2.5-inch GRKs and a pre-drill anything. It's easy. You want everything close to being square. This construction paper, so it's gonna twist, it's gonna warp, it's gonna move. So you just want to do your best to try to keep everything nice and flush. We're good. You also really want to make sure you are gluing, screwing it to the same side on every leg. To save you some trouble in the long run. Grab a spacer because I like to keep my bottom stretcher about 3.5 inches off the bottom. So I'm going to clamp that on there. Now before I finish setting up the base and clearing this area of where it's going to go, basements are notorious for the floor being out of level. So I bought one on Amazon. Bought these clever little leveling feet that I'm just going to throw on before I get too far ahead of myself. And when I say that basements are notorious for being unlevel, most basements, at least where I'm from, are sloped to a pit in the corner where a sump pump, pumps out any kind of water or moisture that may leak up through the slab. But yeah, those leveling feet definitely helped. All right, now that that's all done, it's time to clean up this area. Now what I'm going to do now is clamp up pretty much this whole thing. That way, all I have to do is glue and screw again, and making sure everything is square and where it needs to be. Enjoy. Now, my goal for this entire project was to limit any kind of visible screws from the outside. These supporting braces are the only screws you potentially would be able to see, but they're pretty much covered by the top.
All right, new day. It's time to work on the top. I'm working with a 3/4 inch, pretty much plywood on the bottom as my base. And I'm working with a 3/4 inch piece of black melamine, which is really heavy. It's gonna really suck. So my plan is to put the melamine down, put the plywood down, pre-drill a bunch of holes, screw them together, flip it over, and then cut it to length and width. This should be interesting. Let's get down to business.
I contemplated gluing these two together as well as screw it, but then I realized if I ever needed to replace the top, then I'd have to replace the bottom plywood, and this just makes it easier. All I had to do was unscrew the top and then unscrew it from the bottom, and I can replace the melamine on top.
Table, I want it total dimensions. It's a 4 by 6 table. I'm gonna do a 3/4 inch edge banding of red oak around. So when I cut this table down to final dimensions, I got to subtract 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches from our final dimensions. So it's actually going to be, let's see here. Must have my calculator. So 48 inches minus 1.5 inches. So I know this is a, I have some squares that jump in there. So 72 inches minus 1 inch half. 70.5 inches. So
I apologize. I don't know why that took me so long to figure out. I had some serious brain farts there, and I apologize for leaving that entire debacle in the video, but enjoy.
Got that. I'm going to cut it that way, and then I'll cut the sides.
Then once I had the top cut down to the final dimensions, I could just flip her over, examine my work, and try to get it centered on the base, which wasn't too hard. Make sure everything's right. Doing more math, taking more time for something super simple. And then to attach it, it's literally 6 screws up through those center supports and up through the table. So it makes it easy to take off if I ever have to fix it or get it out of my shop.
All right, now that the top's been attached, it's about 98% of the way done. I'm gonna add some edge banding, hardwood edge banding around the sides, and I'm also gonna add some casters to the bottom of this to make it so it's easy to move. So let's get this thing finished.
I really like these casters. I think I got them on Amazon, but they come with a nice template for you to pre-drill all your screws. That way you know that when you put the feet down, it's going to lift the table up and you're able to move around. When you lift the feet up, the table is going to sit flush to the ground. The next step is to cut the edge banding, and since I have the table pretty much built, it's time to put it to use as an outfeed table. Now I measured the thickness of the table, and like I mentioned, it's pretty much just below 1.5 inches. So I ripped down all the strips of the red oak. This is just a nice easy way to have to cut something without having to measure. All you do is just hold it flush to one end and pretty much mark it with a pen and it lines up perfectly. And all you do is I glued, use my edge clamps that I made to hold it, and then use some 18 gauge brad nails. Held everything together nicely and it went around. And then to clean up the look, I added a nice little chamfer all the way around, just to give it a nice clean look. Also knock down any of those super sharp edges from the oak. Then once I was done with the chamfer, I added a couple coats of boiled linseed oil. It's nice and natural. It looks awesome on the red oak. Like I said, did a couple coats just for protection, and aesthetically it looks awesome.
All right, just like that, we're done. Overall, very happy with the table. There are a few things that I would change if I had to do this over again. I would definitely go with a linoleum top rather than melamine. Melamine, was super heavy to get down into my shop and then kind of maneuver around. Very, very heavy, but sturdy. The table is super flat, way flatter than I thought it was going to be. That also helps with the double-sided melamine. I made it a little bit taller than I should have, but that's okay. But overall, very happy. Nice worktop on top, decent storage on the bottom. Maybe in the next, couple months, I might change some drawers under there. I might add more accessories to this, but overall, very, very happy.
Thank you guys for sticking with me along this road. This build's great, a lot of fun. There are going to be more shop upgrades to come. I'm going to build some cabinets for a miter saw stand eventually, and then some other projects along the way. So if you enjoyed this content, please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Also check out some of my other videos, and thank you guys for watching.